Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to Here Be Dragons. I hope you are all staying safe and sane in this crazy world. Gives us a lot of time to watch movies, though, and this week we've got a classic for you. So, this week we will be discussing Tim Burton's classic Batman from 1989. Loved this movie, but joining us today. You know, John. John's here every week, but joining us this week is another fan of the Batman movies, and somebody who maybe you know, maybe you don't. He does a little bit of writing about symbolism and whatnot in the A Song of Ice and Fire community. John Bronsterys, we call him, or John Bronstein, also AKA Bronsterys, AKA Bronty. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here, Stephen and John. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, my man. You do some great work in your specific field that you do your writing on, your laws of the forest and all that stuff. You haven't been writing as much lately, but I'm really happy to have you here today, Bronty.
It's great to be.
Yeah, Bronty and I met face to face at Con of Thrones last year. We even shared a bedroom in the Con Airbnb for our group, and got to know each other pretty well. And as different as we are, he and I hit it off really, really well. And I'm just super glad to have you, man.
Absolutely. You know, anyone who doesn't know, Stephen is exactly the same in real life as he is on screen. No one is nicer or wiser or more wonderful. When we met, he described himself as chaotic good and me as lawful good. I think that was pretty accurate.
Yeah. But I kind of love the lawful good guys out there. They're, you guys are holding it down for us, being a guiding light. Speaking of somebody who's not chaotic good, though, or not lawful good, that would be Batman. So I guess we'll kick it off with just overall impressions. And I'm
Batman.
Sorry. No, I'm Batman. Overall, yeah, you guys, for the next 2 hours, that's going to be happening. I'm just warning you now. And I make no apologies for it either, but it's bound to happen again.
Well, especially since I've just recently been catching up on all the old How It Should Have Ended videos. So
okay. Now... are you watching? Izzy is pretty good stuff, man.
Yeah, you're familiar with that. Just so I'm cracking up watching all those with all the I'm Batman. Sorry.
Yeah, because that's always how he ends. Batman. Anyway, yeah. Talking about this movie specifically, though, like overall impressions, and I want to go ahead and throw it to our guest first, if that's all right with you, John. Bronty, overall impressions of Batman.
Thanks. And I think that's really the right question to start with, because to me, I think that this movie, we're probably going to go into a lot of the details and, pick it apart, every little thing, which is good. And I want to do that. I'm excited about doing that. But sometimes a movie is more than the sum of its parts or different from the sum of its parts. And I think this is really like that. Like, there are a lot of things you could talk about with this that are, good, bad, interesting, but some things that don't make sense. But really what the movie to me is all about is just kind of the feel of it, right? There's this, the feel of Gotham that they create. Eerie and dark and kind of spooky and weird. And then the Tim Burton stuff, the feel of the Joker and everything, the zaniness that somehow manages to be so prominent in the movie and yet not quite throw the whole thing off kilter. There's still, the heart of the movie is still, this one anyway, is a kind of traditional superhero movie. You get that. You get the awe of a superhero movie, something that's larger than life. These people who can do things that regular people can't do, both on the good side and on the bad side. And so the awe is there and the excitement is there. I love the music. the feel, the eeriness of Gotham. That to me is what kind of survives, and very much Jack Nicholson's performance. This kind of wild. I didn't remember even how completely weird the performance, completely insane, over the top, and so I think that's what made it so something that we remember and talk about 30 years later.
Right. I agree. John, you want to weigh in with your sort of like overarching thoughts?
Yeah. See, there's no way for me to in any way, shape, or form be objective about this movie because, and I know there's people who say, well, Tim Burton's vision of Batman isn't quite what Batman should be. But see, I grew up with this movie. So for me, this is Batman. And I can't imagine the character, the franchise without Tim Burton's really gothic look and feel, the Danny Elfman score, which to me is like, if you don't have the Danny Elfman score, it's not Batman. I mean, that's just the way it is for me. So yeah, and technically my favorite Joker is Mark Hamill from the animated series, but there's no way to get around it. Jack Nicholson's Joker is just a classic performance, and even rewatching it today, I'm so blown away by the stuff he does. Just the different things he does with his laugh. There's one point where he's like, I mean, he's just insane in this movie. And, and Michael Keaton is, once again, I mean, okay, I guess technically not Adam West. Why did I say Adam West? Adam West is not my preferred Batman, by the way. I love Adam West, but not Kevin Conroy is the name I was gonna say, who is the animated series Batman. And you didn't hear me talk about the animated series quite a bit, but yeah, he's Batman for me. But Michael Keaton, we'll say, is the live action Batman. Once again, I grew up with him in the role, and yeah, it's everything about this for me. I watch it and there's a feeling of, okay, I'm home. This is the Batman I'm comfortable with.
Right. Yeah, I guess I can kind of parallel both of your thoughts. I don't know how objective I'm going to be throughout this conversation either. I'm going to do my best. I think there are parts that legitimately maybe we could dissect and we could be like, this doesn't work as well today as it did 30 years ago or what have you. But I also feel like, Bronty, you are correct in that there is more to this movie than just scene after scene after scene that makes it up. It is greater than the sum of its parts in a lot of ways, I think.
Can I say something about what John was saying about Michael Keaton's performance and Jack Nicholson's? It's really interesting how opposite they decide to play it. I wonder if they talked about it, because you've got Jack Nicholson, who's just so over the top. It's amazing. Like, it's just kind of literally inhuman exuberance and just massive emotion. And so a lot is made in the movie of how their creation stories kind of parallel each other in some ways. They were both involved in the creation of the other one, in what made that one Batman, what made one the Joker. And it seems like they react to those creations in opposite ways, right? The Joker just sort of loses any filter on his ability to control his emotions. He's just sort of wildly out there. And then Batman is exactly the opposite, right? We see him show no emotion ever really in the movie. Anything that happens, love, violence, fear, death, nothing. And it's even taken to such an extreme. At one point, there's all this shooting going on, and he's not Batman. He's Bruce Wayne during the shooting, and you see that there's a bullet hole in his overcoat, right? And he's totally unfazed. It doesn't move at all. He doesn't show any change of emotion. So it's really interesting the total opposite way Keaton and Nicholson decide to play the roles.
I agree.
Yeah.
These two actors And I get it. Everybody's take is different, and I don't think anybody's is less valid than mine. But this is Batman and the Joker to me. I feel like Nicholson, and probably this is a lot down to the writing as well, but Nicholson just delivered his performance to match it. I feel like he catches the true chaotic energy of the Joker. Maybe in a way, even other like everybody's going to talk about Heath Ledger, and I'm going to talk about Heath Ledger in when the time is right. But like Heath Ledger's Joker was a little more high-minded. He was a little bit more making a social statement, whereas I feel like Nicholson's Joker is just out there being, if you'll pardon the expression, batshit crazy, in a way that other Jokers just don't. Defacing art for the fact of defacing art. Dancing with the damsel in distress while flailing a gun around. It's difficult to. I can't think of another Joker that quite matches that. The rest, I mean, he's very sinister, but he's so much more playful than some other Jokers, I feel like. Maybe I just haven't seen the right Joker in some other medium.
Sure.
Well, you haven't, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, you have not watched Batman the Animated Series?
I have not.
You really have got to see Mark Hamill's creation, because
I would love to. There's no time for it. I have to start a Star Wars, the Clone Wars animated series watch basically as soon as we're done streaming. I have to start watching that. For what?
Yeah.
For this.
But I will say, when you eventually get to it, your timing can be better, because I was going to say recently, but it's probably a couple of years ago now, they did go through and fully remaster the animated series. So it's going to look excellent when you do get around to watching it. And it'll be very rewarding, because and especially with Mark Hamill's Joker, I think he strikes a balance between sort of the craziness that the sort of loose cannon craziness that you're talking about, and the more sinister touch that someone like Heath Ledger brought to it, especially early on. They did kind of tone him down a little bit according to what the network wanted as time went on. But if you watch the first broadcast episode, he's genuinely frightening and completely loony.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, this is a talk about
the
Batman film, not the animated series. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point.
I mean, it's fine to compare it to the material we're talking about,
because this and its sequel were major influences on that show.
I'm absolutely sure of it. And again, that series came out at a time when I was either in the army or recently out of the army and raising little kids, and you don't have time. And I would love to be able to go back and catch up on it, but there's about 15 other complete series that I have to watch before that. No disrespect, and I would love to. Mark Hamill is for those that know me best, know he's one of my absolute idol heroes. I love this man. But yeah, until that happens, it's still for me going to be Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. He captures the bombastic aspects, the playful aspects, and the truly sinister aspects, often all at the same time.
Could I say something about the Heath Ledger versus Jack Nicholson?
Sure.
I feel like I'm really glad both exist, and that both this movie and Night and later movies exist, because I think they're so radically different, and I like both takes. Both are artistically worthy. The performances of the Joker, but also the movies themselves, and the performances of the Joker reflect the movies themselves, I think. So it seems to me that Heath Ledger looked at this project as, I'm going to try to figure out how an actual human being could become the Joker and what that would look like. How it would be that you'd have someone who's a real person in real life doing these things. And that's a monumental challenge for an actor. And I think he achieved it with his great, great talent. He made you believe that this could really happen. Whereas, and the movies themselves, those movies.
I was just about to say, Bronty, that's the nature of those films themselves. What would it be like if Batman existed in the real world? I mean, it's set in a fictional Gotham City, but the Gotham City of those films looks real. It looks like the world we recognize. Whereas the Tim Burton films are, have this Art Deco look, and it's definitely in a fictional place that has there's some areas that are, that resemble the real world, especially more so in this one, in the first one, but it's definitely, it's like a realistic, I was going to say fairy tale, but it's not quite the real world.
This one, right? Yeah. Exactly. And Jack Nicholson's Joker is not a real person, right? He doesn't try to, there's a lot less verisimilitude. He's not even trying for that. And on the one hand, there's something really great about the Heath Ledger stuff. That's a real artistic achievement. But the 1989 stuff is a different kind of artistic achievement. Once you're untethered completely from real life, you can, be so much bigger. And, Jack Nicholson is just huge, just so super extreme. And I guess there's a danger when you do that of kind of losing people, not caring as much about the people because they can't relate to them as well. But unclear whether that kind of is a strength and a weakness. It's a good thing and a bad thing. Like maybe it's good if we don't care quite as much about the people, because then we can kind of overlook all the casual murder that goes on in this movie, like an unbelievable amount of it on all sides. Batman murders tons of people in this movie.
Oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to touch on. All these, Batman doesn't kill people. I'm like, dude, you need to go rewatch.
I know Batman. That's a grievance that a lot of people have with the Tim Burton's version of Batman. But again, like, this is what I grew up with, so the Batman doesn't kill people came later.
Right. And, here's the thing. All right. If you will allow me to wax philosophical for a moment. Hero is a word that ascribes a great warrior who is able to overcome trials. And it relates often to like the Greek heroes are what come to mind. Hector and Achilles and Ajax and Odysseus. A superhero is the modern world extension of that. And this movie, I think, is very much, while it's not there's not really a whole lot of the hero's journey going on. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, most of these characters don't really have an arc per se. They are playing out their archetypes against the plot, not being changed by it. But that's what hero stories were for to the ancient Greeks. They were a way to tell a story that everyone would understand the symbols involved, what it meant to be, what the hero was trying to accomplish, what his obstacles were, and what it meant to the society about, or how the society viewed certain aspects of itself by the stories they told about their heroes. And I think the same holds true for Batman and the Joker, who are absolutely like their mirror images. They are the same but completely different. And that shows in this film with the "you made me, I made you" exchange at the end. Also, Bruce goes to meet Vicky Vale at her apartment. Oh, nice apartment, lots of space. The first thing Joker says when he walks into the apartment, "Oh, nice apartment, lots of space." They exist again as the yin and yang of the story, and they're not changed on a deep level by what happens. They're playing out who they are, not being made into something new. But like if you read the Odyssey, the guy that starts out the Odyssey is pretty much the same guy that ends the Odyssey. We just see who he is by the things he's required to face. And we see what the Greeks considered to be a great man by how he handled those things.
That's awesome, Stephen. There's just so many great points there. You're so right. I hadn't thought about it. I agree with everything you said. The characters don't change, which is interesting. I love the comparison to the Odyssey. It's true. That's true too. The thing you said at the end is something, I'd like to pick up on. Maybe we could talk about. You said that the way the Greeks depicted their heroes said, told us about what they thought were good qualities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious whether you think this movie is doing that or not. Like, it's not totally clear to me whether it thinks that Batman's qualities are good or bad. He's clearly scarred by this incredible formative event when he was a child. His parents get murdered in front of him. He almost gets murdered. And then he kind of shuts down and becomes this completely different thing from everybody else. And he's doing a lot of good. He's doing it in dark ways that are non-traditional superhero ways, like not what we think of, he's not like Superman at all. But pure light and good.
Right.
And also he doesn't really have he doesn't seem to have personal happiness or personal kind of comfort at all. So I don't know. And there's this big effort in the movie by Alfred to try to introduce that into his life, pushing him to open up to Vicky Vale. So I don't know. Do you think that Batman is being, does the movie want to say it's good the way he is, it's bad the way he is, or, something in between?
Yeah, I mean, we root for him. We root for Batman. We want him to win. We want him to be happy. So we intrinsically understand that there's something in that character that we as a society at large value. Maybe it's not everything he does. Maybe it's not every method he ascribes to, but something about our cultural zeitgeist tells us that is still a good guy, despite the fact that he, what's the quote, murders a ton of people in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think also you have to look at the time that the film was made as well, which is the early days of quote unquote superhero movies. This came following the Richard Donner's Superman, and so we're not yet in the age of let's do deep character dives and see what makes this person tick. Batman in this film is the audience is superhero, and he's got Danny Elfman's heroic Batman theme and playing in the background. I mean, I think we are very much intended to root for this character and to get excited by the things he's doing. So now, whether all of those things are quote unquote good things, maybe that would speak to the audience and perhaps the culture, especially at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, John, because the only superhero movies that I'm aware of from before this time are the Richard Donner Superman films, which, I mean, yes, they're both DC characters, but they're very different in their approach. Superman is very out front. He's very, he is the sun god, and Batman is of the night. So it is the two sides of that coin. But like, this movie feels like it's kickstarted the 90s all by itself to me in some ways too, as I was watching it. Like, you kind of have this gritty noir feel through a lot of it, but then you get these bright colors and that show up, and anybody who was young in the 90s would tell you we wore pants with loud prints on them, and there were flashing bright colors everywhere.
I will say, with regard to the colors, and this is kind of, me getting technical about some things. What's interesting is the film was recently remastered for its 4K release. And what's interesting is that I do believe that Tim Burton was involved in the remastering, or at least somebody involved in the production. Maybe he was the cinematographer, but the look of the film in its remaster is much colder and bluer than previous versions, much more in keeping with sort of the tone of the sequel, Batman Returns. And so I wonder if that speaks to Tim Burton's original conception for the film. But at least as it was released in theaters, you're right, there was an abundance of color, and so there's that dichotomy. But I did think it was interesting that when they decided to revisit the film recently, that it was brought more in line with, because Tim Burton's movies often are very cold,
yes,
in their appearance.
Yeah, but I actually really appreciated the fact that you had both aspects in this movie, because I mean, they don't ever call it out, but again, the way that Batman reflects against the Joker, the way Batman reflects against Bruce Wayne, the way the establishment crime fighters reflect against Batman. There's a lot of look at the differences between these two things. So I feel like the movie is making a lot of, and maybe this is just the way my eye or brain is perceiving it, but it's talking a lot about drawing the line between this thing and that thing, and which do you choose, and maybe not even telling you one is right and or wrong, but this movie's taking shots at consumerism and greed, but yet our hero is the richest man in the city. So
okay, I was gonna wait for this. Can I
go ahead. We meander through our conversations, Bronty.
I'm curious what you guys think about this. Maybe John in particular knows so much about movies and Tim Burton. So I'm not endorsing this view that I'm about to articulate, but a person could have the following hot take on this movie, and it would be interesting. There's enough evidence that you could defend this view. Again, not endorsing it. You could make an argument that from the perspective of the movie makers, even though the movie makers sort of need to make it look like a somewhat traditional movie in order to make the gobs of money that they're going to make on this movie, it's going to be a huge blockbuster and everything, even though they have to make it look like a traditional superhero movie, that really, in their hearts, the Joker is the hero of the movie. And here's why. So first of all of the exuberance and joy and happiness in the movie comes from the Joker. The Joker just experiences all of it, and everybody else is kind of morose throughout the whole movie. Number one. Number two, the Joker kills all the bad guys. The Joker kills Jack Palance, the head crime lord. The Joker kills Eckhart, the corrupt cop. Then the Joker kills all the other crime bosses on the steps of City Hall. He even kills his own right-hand man, Bob. All the bad guys in the movie are killed.
Oh, poor Bob.
I know. Well, although he was so horrible. Joker kills all the bad guys in the movie. Joker experiences all the joy, and okay, you say, well, but Joker kills all of these innocent people and does all these horrible things. He kills all these innocent people, but the way that he does it is via their vanity and greed, at least by his lights, right? He lures everyone to the carnival at the end so that he can gas them and kill them by handing out money. And it's even, Alexander Knox, Robert Oule's character, says in the movie, look at Gotham's greed, right? That we're told that the people come out here knowing it's dangerous, knowing it's this villain who's luring them out there because they're greedy, they want money. And so he kills them through their greed. He kills them through this makeup concoction, poisoning plan where he kills people through their vanity. So you could argue that the people making the movie think that people are greedy and vain and that people are basically bad, and that the hero of the movie is this guy who kind of exposes the bad of humanity and punishes everybody for it. Now, again, I'm not endorsing that view.
No, you've convinced me, Bronty. I'm basically going to go dye my hair green and put on some makeup. You've changed my mind completely.
I mean, like, I get that, but he still wants to kill everybody in the end. So
I don't know that he does. I think he does. I mean, he clearly doesn't care who he kills. And he clearly wants to kill some people. But, like, I don't think he wants to kill everybody. I think he wants to be an inciter of chaos.
Okay, that does not make him a good guy.
No, I don't think it does either.
Oh, he's horrible. Horrible. It's just not totally clear. Like, I don't know. What do you think what is Tim Burton's view, John, of humanity? Because you could take the view that if the movie makers are nihilistic or cynical or misanthropic, that arguably comes through.
I don't know if I want to go down the road of trying to understand the mind of Tim Burton, because, I mean, have you seen Sweeney Todd? Because
yeah.
Although I will say that when I went to go see that movie, the credits rolled and I just started losing it and laughing my butt off, and everybody in the theater was like, "What the hell is wrong with this guy?" But I do think, as far as the Batman films go, it's undeniable that he's more interested in the villains, which is, I think, why you see this exuberant joy when looking at those characters. Does he view them as the heroes? I don't quite think that's necessarily the case, but I do think that he finds beauty in those characters.
Yeah, and I think
I just ripped that off you in this area. I do apologize because I saw the word there and I stole it. But yeah, I think it's more appealing to him, and that's why I think the most interesting characters in his two Batman films are the villains, or quote unquote villains, because I think, especially when you get to Batman Returns, and especially with the character of Catwoman, I mean, she's certainly villainous, but there's an obvious dichotomy with her character. As to whether you want to call her a villain or an anti-hero.
Right. And I actually think that's a discussion worth having here about, is Batman an anti-hero? Because I would tell you that in 1989, this Batman was an anti-hero. But by 2020 standards, he's kind of just a puppy dog. Okay, so he blew up a factory with a bunch of bad guys in it and stuff, but, like, he's pretty squeaky clean for the most part. He tried to help save Jack Napier from falling into the acid. It's only when he's literally gassing people in the streets that he kind of goes for the lethal force.
Well, actually, at the very beginning of the movie, we hear about something off screen. So the first scene of the movie, you've got this kind of pseudo reenactment of the Batman creation story, but with different people, right? And they don't kill them, right? So these two goons rob this family, two parents and a child, and then right before Batman shows up, they're talking to each other, and one of them says to the other, I'm afraid to be up here. I heard this friend of ours, the bat got him. He fell from 5 stories, to his death, right? And there was no blood. So Batman killed that guy. I mean, that's what we're basically being told.
I mean, ostensibly, yes. I mean, it's possible he was running and fell or what have you, but, ostensibly, right. Yes.
But there's also the element of that, and the guy says there was no blood because they believe that it's actually a giant bat who, drained this guy's blood, apparently. And so, there's the question of, what's fact and what's fiction. The guy is dead. That's beyond dispute. But what were the circumstances leading to that? We don't know. So
that's true. That's true. And you're right. Other than that, where we don't know what happened, as you said, both of you, we don't know whether Batman killed that guy. We know he died. And you're right. We see him blow up the factory with a bunch of bad guys. But yeah, not too much else. I mean, there's, I guess I don't know what he does that knocks Vicky Vale unconscious. When she wakes up the next day and he's stolen her film. But yeah, not too. There could have been more darkness. Though there was.
Yeah. A lot more. Again, this movie gets made today, and it's a different film.
But, I mean, for the time, it was really dark.
It was, which is, I think, the point I'm trying to make is that by 1989 standards, that's an anti-hero. By 2020 standards, it's pretty squeaky clean almost. So the one thing I did want to I come here to talk about what I enjoy and what I love. And I love this movie, but in so doing, I want to be full disclosure. There is one major complaint I have with this film. And we're just going to have to chalk it up to it's from 1989, and that is Vicky Vale is just there to be in danger, to give Bruce Wayne a little bit more personal motivation and personal stakes in what's going on. Kim Basinger does what she's a fine, very capable actress. She does a great job with what she's given, but this character is just written to be, she's not very deep. They get, okay, you're a photographer that you're a very capable photographer and you travel to a dangerous place. Spend the rest of the movie screaming and running for your life. And, it is what it is. That's, I think our modern sensibilities, we look back and we go, oh, I wish she had a little more agency, even if she's completely not in control of the situation because she's between a giant Batman and a killer clown. Punch Joker in the gut. Don't flop around like a dead fish when he's dancing with you. Sorry.
Yeah, she takes the initiative to distract him.
She did, but
near the end, I get what you're saying. But again, 1989,
right?
And I think she actually does give a really good performance, even if the character could, use some updating, so to speak. But I don't know. It's, again, I'm speaking from being a kid growing up on this movie, and so it's one of those things that subconsciously I probably just accept because
right.
The kid version of me didn't know any better, really.
Right. But I find it's important to point it out, though, to at least make the point of saying, because that I just ignored it because it was kid me. I mean, I understand that, but that type of thinking is the thing that leads to perpetuating these stupid stereotypes as well. So, yeah.
So I have thoughts about this. I think I'm kind of on both sides of it. On the one hand, I think you're right, Stephen. I think it's a shame because Kim Basinger, I thought, was phenomenal in the movie in terms of her acting, what she did with what they did. Given those prodigious talents, it's a shame they didn't give her more, right? If they had given her some juicy stuff, it could have been a lot better. And I agree with you that it was a shame that there wasn't more. Having said that, I feel like there was a bunch still. So one thing you mentioned, John mentioned that she distracts the Joker at the end when Batman is saving her. There's this hilarious moment in there, hilarious little moment where, so the way that she distracts him is, he's dancing with her and her head is sort of on his arm. And so she realizes that Batman is there and she has to distract him. So she starts kissing his arm, but his arm, he wears all these wild clothes. He has this felt, purple suit coat on. And so she's kissing the arm of that suit coat, and she pauses for a moment to sort of like get a little like fuzz out of her mouth. Hilarious. Clearly was intentional. Like clearly thought about that. It was absolutely hilarious. And it's in the middle of the most tense scene of the whole movie, the end of the movie, the climactic scene. But it has 1 second for that joke to be in there. And it's and she sells it so well. Like she shows all of that going on. And I thought that the love story with her and Bruce Wayne could have been better for sure. There could have been writing that was better. They gave her very little, but with the little they give her, I thought she did a lot. I believe that she loved him, and they do make her character have some qualities that are interesting that come out. So one is this kind of dogged investigative zeal. Right, she's the only one who believes Knox at the beginning. Nobody believes that Batman really exists except for her and Knox. And then with Bruce Wayne, she initiates this kind of effort to find out what's really going on with him. She almost figures it out herself. She doesn't quite get that he's Batman until Alfred shows her, but she follows him around. You know, she figures out what happened with his parents, which nobody knows, and then also. She's very brave. Like when Batman saves her and she's safe, ostensibly, she doesn't run away like anyone else would, but she's taking pictures of the fight with Batman and the Goons, which is why he later has to steal the film from her. And then one more thing, she's very caring, almost at an impossible level. Like when there's this wild scene in the museum where she pours water on the Joker to try to get away from him, and he does this thing where he imitates the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz, and he pretends that, oh, I'm melting, and he literally says, I'm melting. There's a moment where she actually sort of goes to him. She feels bad, even for him, she shows sort of empathy. So she kind of shows empathy for everyone, and also a lot of bravery and investigative talent. So I think there's just enough. There should have been more, though. You're right.
Okay. I mean, I think you actually raised some solid points. Maybe I was like, I want her to be written like a character for today, which is ridiculous. I understand, and I think Kim Basinger, I agree, does a fine job with the material that she is given. She was an actress working in 1989, and those were the parts that were available, and I think she did really well with what she was given. And maybe you're right. Maybe she does have a little more agency and depth to her than I was giving her credit for. I'll think about that.
No, I mean, you definitely have a point. It should have been more. And it's a shame. At least with Batman and the Joker, even though they don't change and everything, and there's sort of one note, at least we know for sure what that one note is. It's a little less well defined.
I will say, though, that whatever shortcomings they have for the female part in this film, what's really gratifying is in the next installment, you have the most fascinating character of the two films, probably, which is a female character with a full arc.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I look forward to talking about that movie soon. #soon. I think it's the superior of these two films, although this is a great movie. But I think the success of this movie propelled that second movie. You get more money, you get to take more risks when you have successes. So I think that that Batman Returns benefits from that a lot.
And it's interesting because I know a lot of people who hold this one as the superior film, and I have no issue with that whatsoever, because it's
like what
it's
you
a
like.
classic film. It's wonderfully made, but I do think that this is Tim Burton. Even though this is a very Tim Burton movie, he's still working within certain restrictions and not wanting to go too far. Let's make this a Batman movie, and Batman Returns is like a full-fledged Tim Burton movie.
Yes, it is.
He's completely unleashed with that movie, which is why I love it so much.
Yeah, I love me some Tim Burton as well. He's such a freaking weirdo. but he's kind of a visionary, and his fingerprints are definitely on this film. But
Yeah.
I feel like you're right, John. This is not Tim Burton Unleashed.
For sure. This is right on the line.
Right.
Managed to still make it a traditional movie, a traditional superhero movie, just barely, but just barely. Like, he almost gives the movie to the Joker.
Right.
And the Joker is a lot him. I think it's just so, removed from everything.
Yeah, I was surprised because I did my rewatch this morning. Y'all know I try to do them in the morning before if it's just a movie, just so it's as fresh as possible. And I was like, God dang, he has so many great lines in this movie. The Joker does. Just so many things. I'm like, that is the most ridiculous thing to say. And you've got this stupid prosthetic on your face that gives you this gigantic grin, and you're wearing an outfit with clashing colors, and you're dancing around like an idiot. And yet somehow, some way, you're compelling and terrifying, and I can't take my eyes off you. The Joker is a walking train wreck in that way.
Oh yeah,
and just the things he says. This town needs an enema.
That was the one I was just going to bring up. This town needs an enema. I was like, did that really happen? I had to go back a couple of times to make sure that really happened. And the museum scene where he's defacing the art and they're playing the music, it's so weird. Like, can you imagine that scene in Superman 1? The Richard Donner?
No, see that in the museum, that's Tim Burton, my man.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, and this is why, like, if you take a look at Superman, the 1978 Superman, which is such like a classic, bright superhero movie, and then you have Tim Burton's really weird, dark, gothic Batman, and it's like, dudes, this is the Batman versus Superman movie we wanted to see because it would have been insane.
That I would have loved it. Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton, oh yeah, give it to me all day.
You get the sense they would have just kind of stared at each other incomprehendingly. Like, how can a person be like you? How can a person be like you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm not careful, I'm going to retread the same ground with this Joker stuff. I just love how beautifully unhinged, but like still together he is. He never loses sight of his plans or his goals or anything. But like, you also never know if he's going to ask you for your gun and just shoot you with it. Oh,
yeah, right. And can I ask a question? Maybe so. This is really, really random, but sort of in the vein of the Tim Burton randomness, everything. What's going on with the obviously intentional, repeated again and again theme of Vicky Vale taking off her shoes? This happens over and over again.
Oh. Are you not aware that Tim Burton has a foot fetish?
I did. Well, there's the answer. I was like, why is she
watch Tim Burton movies.
Oh, I thought that was just a Tarantino thing. I didn't know Tim Burton did.
No, Tim Burton's got it too.
So that's the answer, because that clearly is the answer, because there's no other reason. And they call attention to it every time. First, she's going up the steps on their date, at Wayne Manor, and she's like, "Oh, my feet are killing me." She takes off her shoes. Okay, before they go up to his bedroom. So that's the first time. Then, in the Batmobile chase where he rescues her, actually, really a very exciting scene. Where he saves her, and then there's the weird thing like, how much do you weigh? funny. But in the middle of that, when they get out of the Batmobile, she pauses before they get out to take off her shoes and throw them out of the Batmobile so that she can run with him. Okay, fine, that's interesting. That's time number 2. And then the third time, at the very end of the movie, you know, going up all the cathedral steps with the Joker, you see her shoe falling and everything. So, like, the movie wants us to notice this. I couldn't figure out why, and now Steven supplied the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's fully disclosed, but I would bet money that he's had Helena Bonham Carter's feet in his mouth. There, I said it out loud.
See, this is what I was operating under, that just, you know, does anybody really want to wear heels? So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I really am, but like, watch other Tim Burton movies. You will see he likes feet, and that's fine. Like feet. I don't care. As long as you're not cutting them off and keep them in a freezer.
The people in the chat are all saying, you know, obviously she can't run in heels and everything.
Right.
Look, I totally get it. I'm just saying that there are other ways. If you didn't want to intentionally call attention to this again and again and again, you could have found other ways. You could have had her take off the shoes off screen. You could have had her wear flats. You could, you know, there's some scenes where she doesn't even need to take them off, but she takes them off anyway. So, like, they wanted to make a thing of this. I just wanted to know why.
Right. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that weird foot thing, and you know, but like, I will say this too. There was another. I mean, and I think this is just down to director being director. I don't really think Tim Burton does great action sequences. Not in this film, anyway. I know. Maybe you disagree, but like, I really noticed it in this movie. And yes, it's a superhero movie, but this is not an action flick. There's a lot of philosophy and humor going on here that's sort of running beneath the surface. You don't get a lot of like one shot where you can see a lot of action. There's a lot of quick cutting, and you know, that's fine. Tim Burton isn't known for being an action director. I think he took on the property because he loves the themes and the aesthetics of it, and he's really great at both of those things. And he probably had some help for Batman Returns, or he like brushed up on his skills or whatever, because I feel like that movie has a lot better action sequences in it.
Well, and I think that film is more polished overall in all areas. So, and I think they definitely made sure they were making some forward strides in that, and that would include the action scenes.
Right. Well, and again, this is not like the beginning of his career, but it's still early in his career where he's perfecting his craft. And okay, so the action sequences don't hold up to the action sequences of someone like, say, I don't know, Spielberg does pretty well. Michael Bay actually does great action. Just it's other things that he doesn't do as well, in my opinion. And every director is different. And I would take the less than stellar action scenes and keep the rest of Burton's DNA in this film, because I think that's what really makes it great. Not these, you know, when you watch the Christian Bale Batman, you get to really kind of watch it and feel the way he is tearing through the bad guys. You can see it and feel it in a way that you don't really see and feel it in this film. But like, this film has a different way of approaching that material. It's Tim Burton versus come on, brain. Who did the Christian Bale Batman's, John? I can't think of it right now. Who was the director?
Christopher Nolan.
There you go, Chris Nolan.
I mean, he's a fantastic action director. I mean, I think Batman Begins is just one of the best action movies of all time.
But that being said, like, there are things that Tim Burton does better than Christopher Nolan. And as we've already said, I'm glad both versions exist, because while they are coming from the same source material, they're really like focusing on different things.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point, Stephen. I think it's true. There were a couple of times, at least in the movie, where I felt genuinely excited. But I think, as John said, it maybe had more to do with Danny Elfman's score than anything else. The music was super exciting at a couple of points. I thought one of them was the one I mentioned before, where he saves her from the museum, and then there's the chase. That, and then they have this acrobatic aerial thing where they go up.
Yeah, I mean, I see, and I love that, and I think that's very well done, and it's, you know, and then it's capped off with, where does he get those wonderful toys?
Yeah, fantastic. So it's the thing about that line. One of the things that makes it so great is it's kind of what you're thinking as the viewer, even before he says it. It's like you would think that the Joker, this would make an impression on him, and he would want that for himself. Yeah. So that was exciting, and I also thought it was exciting at the end when you see him in the plane for the first time. It's like, oh, whoa! Didn't realize he had a plane. He's flying over the city, and then.
And speaking of wonderful toys, because I had that plane as a kid, and I remember when I was obsessed with this movie. You know, I remember in particular a trip to Michigan when we went to go see my grandparents, and I had that toy with me, and I was like, I blew up balloons just so I could like have it come by and catch the balloons in, but it didn't have the mechanism that it has in the film, so I had to sort of rig it to tie it in there. But you know, but that's what's so great. It's just, this is a Batman that just inspired all these, you know, fun toys, and yeah, and it was great being a kid with this movie.
Yeah, I can imagine. 1980. Well, yeah, I was a kid still too, but like, okay, I was a teenager, turned 15 in 1989. So I would have been 14 when this movie came out in the summer. But yeah, I was like, I think this movie was the perfect movie for me at the time. I was just coming off my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles craze, and I was ready to move on to something a little more grown up, a little darker, a little more nuanced. And I think this was just the right movie for me at that time. Okay, you know what? Hold on to it. We're about halfway through, so we're going to do the mid-roll. Then, John, I'm going to turn you loose, all right? Okay, so might as well just do the mid-roll now then. So if you've been here this long and you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button. I would appreciate it. I would take it as a personal favor. If you are not subscribed, hit the little subscribe button down there. I would also take that as another personal, like, I would be forever in your debt. Ring the little bell icon, like hit the little bell icon so that you will get notifications when we go live. Now we go live the same time every week, but people forget. And I was seeing some conversation earlier about not getting notifications. Make sure you've got the notifications turned all the way on. Okay. Patron shout outs. So shout outs to our patrons who help keep some of the lights on here at Casa de House Here Be Dragons. And we're, you know, first of all, thanks to that guy right there, Bronsterys the Wise. Bronty is the first patron on the High Council, and I can't thank you enough, buddy.
I can't thank you enough. Thank you for making this great content.
Well, we just here have some fun, and for those that are able to share their abundance so that we all may benefit, deserve to have their names spoken aloud every week. And we will start with John Bronstein. But I'm also going to mention Sixto Sounds, JP. Thank you, buddy. Love you, man. And of course, ridiculous Ed Tollett, Sean, my man out there, holding it down for you guys. So thanks so much for that. Coming up next week, we are okay. Everyone, make sure you are listening. Next week is Fan Appreciation Stream. if you are a fan or a regular, or somebody who has been a supporter and you want to come on the screen with me and John and Nessie, and we will talk and we will get to know you better. You can ask us questions, we can ask you questions. And I really we've been going at this for about a year now, and I just really want to have a way to not only say thank you, but to have everyone get to know you a little bit better. That being said, if you want to join in that fun, you need to probably be in our Slack group. Now, joining the Slack group is super easy. You get with me, you get with John, or you get with Nessie, and you give us your email address, and we'll get you in there. And our Slack group, there are times when it's quiet, but that conversation never really stops. And we have channels for doing everything from planning vacations to talking about Lord of the Rings to what was the one we added recently? We have one where we plan hangouts. One of our regulars, Amy, who is not here because she's working on her PhD thesis or something like that. Anyway, she's super busy. But yesterday was her birthday. John and me and Bronty were all at her birthday gathering yesterday. A lot of that got planned through our Slack group. So come join our Slack group. You will not regret it. And that will also be an easy way for me to get with everyone who wants to join us for our fan appreciation stream. And if you're in the Slack group, we will be talking about it after this stream a little bit more. And I will be sharing details about how, where, why, and when in the Slack group. The week after that is, what is it, John? Oh, I remember what it is. It's I Know That Nerd with Pat Spanagle, who was supposed to come on for Mother's Day, but Mother's Day was Mother's Day, and he spent the day with his wife and child, and I had my lovely mother on as a guest. So we got him worked back into the schedule, and I'm looking forward to that. Then we've got Bobby from The Expanse, not Bobby Miller from The Expanse coming up. But that's further on down the line. So yeah, next week, fan appreciation stream, no real topic, just the topic is, hey, you guys, come on and talk, and maybe I give you John will ask you about a few films, Nessie will ask you some questions about your favorite symbolism, and I will hit you with a couple of I Know That Nerd classic questions.
And that's going to be so much fun because it's what I loved about those couple of quarantine streams that we did, where it was just, there was no plan. We just had conversations, and this is going to be even better because we're going to have some people coming on live with us. Right.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. So, John, what do you have coming up?
All right, next week on Tuesday at 2:00 Eastern, I have a new episode of John Webster Film, and we're going to be talking Blade Runner 2049, and I'm going to be doing that with the wonderful Emmett from Nauticast.
Yeah, Emmett Booth.
Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you guys come in for that. I have discovered in the past week or so, sadly, that movie seems to not be available on any streaming services, which is lunacy. But if you're part of our Slack group, we might be able to do something about that.
Yeah, just saying, if you are a member of the Slack group that we mentioned, we might have a plan in place where you can watch Blade Runner 2049 with us before the stream.
Yeah. And beyond that, I'm not quite sure yet, and I have some ideas, but I'm also I've been doing this stream every week, and I might be getting to a point where I might take, there might be sometimes when I do every other week, just because I'm heading back to work, and so time is not what it has been. So, but in any case, I still have some stuff planned ahead. So if there's the occasional week where there's not an episode, rest assured there will be still stuff on the horizon, and I'm looking forward to it. It's been a lot of fun, and continues to be. And so yeah, but next week is Blade Runner.
Right on. Bronty, anything you wanna shill to the people?
Not really.
Okay.
If I know a bunch of people who watch this are probably interested in A Song of Ice and Fire, the books on which Game of Thrones was based. I am interested in analyzing the symbolism in those books. I've written a couple of essays recently about analyzing those symbolisms. They're on a website called redmiceatplay.com. You can see Bronsterys' essays on that website. So yeah, that's what I've done in the fandom. But unlike you guys, I don't have ongoing stuff that I would like to show.
Okay, fair enough. I just dropped redmiceatplay.com so you can see that. I don't know why it didn't link, but yeah, redmiceatplay.com is the place to go to see Bronty's writing. I believe Emma's got some writing on there too, and it's very good stuff. So if you want to immerse yourself in the world of symbolism in A Song of Ice and Fire, there is probably no better place to do it.
Yeah, I would say, as Stephen said, the website really belongs to Emma Smith, who's written many more essays than I have, and they're fantastic. I think that Emma, along with me and certainly Nessie has been just an absolute core part of the group of people who analyze symbolism in A Song of Ice and Fire. She does it on her YouTube channel, as everyone here probably knows, the Unspun Yarn. So yeah, it's been
Yep.
cool to get to know this group of people who do this stuff, and it's through that I met Stephen, even though Stephen isn't really a symbolism analyzer himself. He nonetheless is friends with all of us, just like he's friends with everybody.
Right. Okay, well, I think that's it for the mid-roll, though. I can't think of anything else I need to mention. John, can you think of anything?
No.
Yeah, see, this is the danger of going unscripted. 25 minutes from now and be like, I forgot. Anyway, but let's go ahead and return to talking about I'm Batman, because I was actually struck the first time he spoke. Oh, right. We'll get to that. First time he spoke that he didn't use the Christian Bale voice almost. I'm like, wow, that's actually like just a barely modified Michael Keaton voice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll admit that's one of the things about the Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale movies that I'm not crazy about is the extreme Batman voice.
I hate it. I think it's a weakness of the movies. That I think that he wanted to modify his voice so people wouldn't recognize Bruce Wayne's voice in those movies. I think that's the explanation given. And so there's a kind of electronic thing going on in the voice, and it makes him hard to understand. I thought that was really one of the worst things in those movies, and I love those movies, but they should have just dropped that and let Christian Bale talk like Christian Bale.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think it's great. Anyway, John.
That was great. That was great. I don't know if the original was great, but that would be impression.
John, I'm going to turn you loose. Talk about music.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to say that if you are a fan of these films, even though it's currently temporarily out of stock, but just wait, go to lalalandrecords.com and you are going to want to get the Danny Elfman Batman collection. It's a set that has 4 CDs and it's music, all the music from both of the Tim Burton films. So, and it comes with a absolutely wonderful collectible booklet with notes and some pictures. I'm not coming up on it. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, that's first and foremost. You're going to want that. Okay, now, like I said before, Batman isn't Batman to me without the Danny Elfman main theme. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's not just the use in these movies, but it was also carried forward to Batman the Animated Series. So for
Really?
me, So for me,
know that.
Yeah, I'll once we get done with this, I'll go ahead and put up a YouTube video of the intro to the show for you, Stephen, because and the opening of the animated series doesn't even have the title like in the opening credits. It just shows, Batman doing his thing, and then it shows him like up on a building with his silhouette, and it's the Danny Elfman theme, and you don't need anything else. And especially in the first couple episodes of that show, the theme is throughout the score as well, until that show's composer, Shirley Walker, developed her own theme for the show, which to me is almost as classic, but it's very Danny Elfman-esque. So his fingerprints are all over that music as well, and just, I mean, this is one of those movies with those great opening title sequences where, you're not quite sure what you're seeing. It ends up being the Batman logo, and the theme itself is a march. It's like, it's like we were talking about. It's the sort of the polar opposite of the John Williams Superman march, where that is heroic and uplifting and bright, and this is dark and gothic, and what's interesting is they almost didn't go with an orchestral score for the film, because obviously Prince had a lot to do music wise with this film, and then at one point I think they were even talking to Michael Jackson to do some music for the film as well, and there was the idea of not even going with any kind of orchestral score for the film. It was going to be sort of modern contemporary style music all throughout.
I'm sure glad they went with the orchestral stuff.
Yeah.
I would just endorse that, but much more strongly. I think it could have potentially ruined the movie if they hadn't done it. It would have been, I mean, much as I loved the Prince stuff in the movie, and I did, to me, the Elfman stuff was just essential. Like, the movie wouldn't have been the movie. It would have been completely different. A lot of things that were my favorite things about the movie were the orchestral score. It's what sets the feel for so many scenes, and sets the feel for the beginning of the movie, right? You enter the movie hearing that music, and now you're in Gotham. Now you're in this weird, dark, different place. I couldn't have imagined it without that.
Well, I mean, and yes, they worked together a million times at this point. Danny Elfman and Tim Burton, I think they hold hands when they go to work together. They've done a million different things. Even like Danny Elfman is the voice of Jack Skellington, I think.
The
singing voice, maybe?
The singing voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, he wrote all that music. But like, yeah, this movie, especially the like the main theme is very Burton-y, but which is not very John Williams-y. And so you do have that sort of like, again, it's that tonal shift. Okay, it's 11 years after Superman, but you can see, how the culture has changed from what we want to see in a superhero movie. Like this Batman film, it kind of feels like, I mean, I'm sure it didn't do it single-handedly. It is a product of culture, not an instigator of it, maybe. Like, I don't think it created the obsession with the anti-hero that kind of rose up in the 90s, but I think it might have been sort of like an early indicator that that's where society was heading, was that we wanted to see our heroes flawed and imperfect and hurting in a way that Superman just never was or even could be.
Yeah, I do want to say something else about the main theme, which is that it's a weird theme. Like, we recognize it as Batman today, at least those of us for whom the Tim Burton movies are sort of paramount in our are growing up and are sort of development as Batman fans, but it's so, if you actually listen to it, it goes on a very weird path, because it's not like the sort of classical concert piece that John Williams' Superman theme is, that sort of goes kind of in a sort of traditional way and then ends with a big flourish. It's basically a driving propulsive theme that just is busy and like keeps moving forward, and then it just does some really weird stuff before culminating in this sort of strange barrage of instruments and chaos. But it all works. It sounds amazing. And
even from just a very sort of like basic level, the Superman theme is written in a major chord. The Batman theme is written in a minor chord. So like they have different sort of feelings that they evoke just based on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know probably a lot of people know what that means. Maybe some people don't know the difference between a major and minor chord, but like the simple answer for anybody who doesn't know, a major chord is going to make you feel bright and happy, and a minor chord is going to make you feel sad or scared.
And I have to say, I made sure to grab a picture of it. Like, the ending of this movie is what it is because of that music. The way it's, the camera rises up through all the buildings, and then you end on this great shot of Batman standing there with the signal lit up, and it's just given over completely to the music. You just don't get this in modern films, where the music is such a driving force. And then the end credits come up, and and again it hits you with that main theme of and it's driving forward, and so you walk out of the theater and you're super pumped and you're excited. And I guarantee you don't, I was talking about this the other day with the school of thought with maybe the best scores are the ones that you don't notice. You notice Danny Elfman's Batman music, and you go out of the theater humming it. So
yeah, we kind of got into a deep dive about music just a couple of days ago when we were talking about Gladiator on John's channel. The music in this movie is filling a different role than it did in that film, which is fine. But I really do appreciate Danny Elfman as a composer because he's so different. He's so unique. Like, it's crazy that I haven't seen this movie in years. Turned it on. It starts the first time the theme starts to play. I'm just like, can hum right along with it. Here we go. And it's not even, I would say, not even his most iconic music for Danny Elfman. It just shows what a talent he is, I think.
That's amazing. What is his most iconic music?
The Simpsons theme.
Oh, you're right. Gee, that's absolutely, what an incredible career. Sort of akin to John Williams, maybe.
Right. But like, he's like the anti-John Williams in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's interesting because this clearly, we've been talking a lot about those Superman movies because made, I think, they thought of that as the kind of baseline. That's the thing they're answering, right? That was the
right
one in the modern superhero movies. This was the second one. This is the yin to the Superman's yang. And it's interesting because there are, even though they're so different, there are base similarities, like in both the music. The orchestral music is absolutely at the center of the movie. Like, you can't imagine the movie without it. You could argue it's the best thing about the movie, in both cases, or one of the most memorable things, just incredible. And in both cases, the orchestral music is very exciting, very grand, awe-inspiring, but all of those things in opposite ways. One positive and the other dark. Yeah. Can I bring up a couple of things that I thought were, maybe little problems?
You're allowed to bring up whatever you want. I hope I can refute every point you make, though.
If you can, that would be
impressive. You're a lawyer. You're used to people trying to refute you.
I mean, okay, so they don't have to include, if they don't want to, this thing about the Joker having a line. He says, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? But they do. They decide, you know what? We're going to put this in. We like this. We're going to put this in. Okay, they put it in. So 2 things about that. Number 1, don't jump on me for being too nitpicky here, but the line gets said twice in the movie. It's very emphasized. It's a short line. They say it differently the 2 times. Clearly just an error, right? So the Joker says, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? In the pale moonlight. When they have the flashback to young Joker, who's about to kill young Jack Napier, who hasn't become the Joker yet, who's about to kill, the parents of Bruce Wayne, he says, have you ever danced with the devil by the pale moonlight? This is just an error, right? They just said the line differently. Like, you're going to emphasize this line so much. It's a short line. Just say it the same way the 2 times. That's a nitpick. More than a nitpick. Let me make the second point. John's going to argue. He's going to retcon this and be like, no, he changed it. He modified it as he got older. Like, no, it's just an error. And then the second thing about it is he says to Bruce Wayne, I always ask that of all my prey. We have seen him in the movie kill a bajillion people and never say that, including in one-on-one situations. He has a line that he says to Eckhart, the corrupt cop, when he's about to kill him. He says, like, Eckhart, think about the future. You know what he doesn't say to Eckhart? Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Any of his prey. But when he tells Bruce Wayne, I always say that to all my prey. Like, you don't have to put that in. You don't have to introduce this thing that's obviously false. So, and to emphasize it so much, didn't somebody watch the movie before they, sent it to the big screen and someone realized, hey, wait a minute, he says the line differently. Let's just dub it. It would have been super easy, too, to correct the mistake because the young Joker isn't Jack Nicholson. So you don't have to pay Jack Nicholson an extra $10 million to do it over. You just get somebody to dub in some other, that guy has one line in the movie. Young Jack Nicholson, young Jack Napier, one line. You could have any actor say that line. So, okay, sorry to get so exercised about this, John. You were gonna tell me I'm wrong.
I hope so.
All right, so obviously there's years and years and years between the 2 utterances that we're shown of that line. So is it a stretch that he says it differently on each of those occasions? No, it is not. And it's just something to plant the idea in Bruce's head. So the point is not that it's the exact same phrasing. It's almost exactly the same line. So it triggers it in his head.
Fair enough. I knew you'd say that. Fair enough. Okay. But counterpoint to that, 2 things. Number 1, this is the thing. Of all the things that this mass murderer can say to everyone, this is the thing he chooses to say. It's not a lot of words. Like if we counted the words, what would be the 10, 11, 12, I don't know. He loves it so much. And you're telling me that this guy, who this is his favorite thing to say, these few words, sometimes he says it one, sometimes he says it the other. Like, he's going to mess this up? No, I don't think so. That's number 1. But number 2, just from the perspective of movie making, the movie makers didn't do that because they thought, oh, maybe the line changed. That would be interesting. They just did it by mistake. And if you're
I counterpoint to that. You have an example in let's go over to the movie Pulp Fiction, where you have the opening scene where there's the line difference with what Bunny, I think her name is, what she says when she points the gun and it launches into the opening credits is different from her line reading later on in the film when we come back to the scene. And Tarantino has said there's a point to that. It's about things don't always come across the same depending on your perspective. And I think it's very important that we're hearing that line in the past through Bruce's memory. So it doesn't have to be.
If they're making a super deep point, credit to them, and I apologize. But if
I'm not saying that is it. I'm just saying there's room for that explanation.
Fair enough, but my guess is that they just made a mistake.
No,
What about the fact that he claims to say it to all of his prey, and he never says it any of the other times we see him preying on people?
Depends on your definition.
We only see him over the course of the events of this film. Yeah. I don't know how many times maybe he said it to the other people.
But he uses the words always, right? And
but like,
okay, you know, Bronty, I'm just going to let you win this one so that we can move
on. I'm not done arguing with the lawyer yet. You ready? I think it could be that there are certain people that Jack Napier kills that he doesn't consider his prey. They are his competition. For instance, Jack Palance was not his prey. He was his competition. All right. And then I can also say that, like,
that's a really good point. It's a really good point. But apparently none of the countless people he kills in this movie are his prey.
Okay. Fair enough.
Definition.
Here's what that setup made me wonder is that does Jack Napier spend the whole movie knowing that he killed Bruce Wayne's parents? I mean, like when he starts, like the first time he sees Bruce Wayne, does he know, oh, that's the little kid from the alley? Because the Waynes were already very, very wealthy when it happened. There's newspaper articles, and he is kind of a psycho. So, like, every possibility exists that he is fully aware of who he killed in that alley.
Wait, I have to stop you guys here because something very important has come up, and
okay,
and I need to address it. Do you know why I have to address it?
Because you're Batman.
Because I'm Batman. This is a picture that Beth sent me, and I'm just putting it up.
Nice. Beth, go get Emma. Show her, because this is solid gold. This is the content you came here for. Well, Erin has spoken, Bronty. She has declared you the winner.
Erin, I can't thank you enough. Erin is another Chicagoan. Chicago forever. Thank you so much, Erin.
Yeah, I'm willing to argue with Bronty, but I'm not willing to argue with Erin. She'll just beat me up. Anyway,
yeah. I can't say I subscribe to that, because then the whole point of my existence would be gone if I didn't argue with Erin.
Right. But okay, guys, we got 30 minutes left. Rack your brains. Make sure that you
I got
to bring up anything that anything. I mean, it's all fair game. Anything we haven't discussed that you want to make sure you talk about. I will say, like, Billy D. Williams was in this movie, and I totally forgot. I mean, I totally forgot that he was Harvey Dent, and I really wish there was a movie with a Two-Face of Billy D. Williams. You know, give me that Lando with half his face gone. I would love that.
Yeah, you talked about Kim Basinger being underused. You know, Vicky Vale not being as interesting as she could have been. I mean, boy, was that true 100 times over for Billy D. Williams, right? He's so kind of compelling to watch every time he's on screen. He's barely ever on screen. They give him almost nothing to do. And not just him, but really all of those people, you know, Pat Hingle playing Commissioner Gordon, right? These are potentially vibrant, interesting characters. I almost wonder if they should have just not even have had them in the movie, because...
Oh, no, I disagree with you completely.
Yeah.
I think they're absolutely fantastic, even though they don't, nobody in this movie has a great deal of depth or character development, or, of course, some to establish them, but no character goes on a great defining journey throughout this. They serve the purpose. Again, they're not people as much as they are archetypes in this film, at least is how I see it. So having these different archetypes, I feel is necessary.
And as far as having Harvey Dent in there, I mean, I'm glad that he's in there like as Harvey Dent, district attorney, and not like a focal point, because the idea was obviously to have him come back later on in a future movie and play Two-Face. I like the fact that he's part of the fabric of this world without automatically becoming Two-Face in this movie.
Right. I agree. If you know the Batman mythos, you know where that character is headed, but I kind of like that they put him in here just on the off chance that that they needed him later, which, I would have been great. Instead, we got, what's the guy from The Fugitive? Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face eventually. Although I'm not sure that I consider... Okay, so this movie and Batman Returns, the one with Catwoman and Penguin and Tobias Schreck, I think it's his name. To me, obviously, Batman Returns is a direct sequel of this film. But the one that comes after it with Val Kilmer as Batman and Jim Carrey as the Riddler, I don't know that I consider this a continuation of the same cinematic universe, if you will. And that's some great fan art, by the way, John. I love that.
I know. I just had to put that up.
Do you have an artist credit for that off the top of your head?
I don't, because I saved these like a long time ago. So
okay.
I wish to God that I did.
Well, no copyright infringement intended, y'all, but yeah, that's a really, really beautiful picture. I wish we could credit the artist.
Let me just keep on talking, guys. I'm going to try and see if I can find it and look it up.
So, I don't know that I consider, Val Kilmer to be the same Bruce Wayne that Michael Keaton is. Because I don't know that there's literally any carryover between the characters, between the movies, other than the fact that Chris O'Donnell is in that one, right? Yes. Chris O'Donnell is in that one. And then he is also in the one with Bat Nipples. George Clooney. So I guess I can tie those together. But I don't consider those two part of these two, even though they probably were meant to be, because there's a continuation, at least visually, of the same style between the older 4 Batman movies. But this film started something that is still going to this day. Go ahead.
Bring up one more question / quibble, and I hope you guys will be able to again correct me on this one. This is the last one. I want to emphasize, I really like this movie, and when I saw this movie the day that it came out. It was so exciting, and I loved it. So I started talking about all the big picture stuff and the things that I loved and the feel and everything. So I don't want to make it seem like the only things are these quibbles, but I had one more thing that I didn't understand that I want to bring up and I want to ask you guys about. It's the scene where Michael Keaton goes, so Bruce Wayne goes to Vicky Vale's house, and maybe my favorite thing in the whole movie happens in that scene, so I'm not going to knock the scene too much, where he's trying to tell her, and he keeps kind of going around it, and then she goes to answer the door, and then he says, not to her, he mouths the words, "I'm Batman." That's what he's trying to tell her. Hilarious. But everything that happens about that scene after that, once the Joker shows up, I do not understand. Number one, why is the Joker there? if the Joker is there to kidnap Vicky Vale, why doesn't he just kidnap her at the end of the scene? At the end of the scene, Bruce Wayne has been knocked unconscious, and the Joker could just take Vicky Vale with him, but he doesn't.
He's there to give her flowers.
Yeah, he brought his girlfriend flowers.
Okay.
Well,
That's question number one. That's odd to me. If he's there to give her flowers and that's it.
Bronty, I'm not sure if you noticed, Joker's a pretty odd dude throughout the entire film.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me because he's
loony
and he's in love with her. So
okay, but so not to kidnap him, which he tried to do in a previous scene, right? In the museum, he tries to kidnap her and he gets stopped by Batman. Here, he could kidnap her, but you're saying no, he was just going to go give her flowers and then leave. That was the plan? Because the way it's presented, he's there to take her.
Well, is he going to kidnap her in the previous scene? He's presenting it's a it's a date and he's presenting her with a proposition. Okay. But at no point does he say that you're coming with me right now.
Okay, fair enough. In both scenes, I think we're meant to believe that Batman in one case and Bruce Wayne in the other case has interfered with the Joker's plans, but it's not really clear what those plans are in either case, I guess, and especially in the second case. But fine. Even if I'll say okay about that point you just made, I don't understand the other thing. So Bruce Wayne, it seems to me that Bruce Wayne, it's important, like, to have Bruce Wayne stand up for Vicky Vale or something in the scene, but the manner of it doesn't make any sense. What he does is he puts this tray under his shirt, which protects him from the Joker shooting him. The Joker could have just shot him in the head. He has no idea what's going to happen, and had the Joker shot him in the head, Batman would be dead. That'd be it. That would be the end of it. And also, why does it do Vicky Vale any good for him to put the thing under his shirt and then act all crazy and provoke the Joker to shoot him? That doesn't help Vicky Vale in any way. Why doesn't he just not do that? What's the point of that?
That's a good question, actually. And I mean, again, I will say no film is perfect. Every script ever written has convenient things happening in it because they need to happen for the sake of, this. We've got to get from A to B. The road we travel to get there is what it is. And a lot of times some of those things are written purely to sort of facilitate the moving forward of the plot. But I'm kind of with you, like, hide in the closet, Bruce. I will say he doesn't necessarily know that the Joker's not going to hurt Vicky.
Correct. But what he does doesn't stop the Joker from hurting Vicky.
Right. But like, and what does he have at hand? He has a little plate thing that he sticks in his shirt. If it worked, if I get shot in the chest, great. If I get shot in the head, I don't have anything to cover my head with.
But there's no benefit to the risk, right? You don't accomplish anything by getting shot.
But I don't think he was trying to get shot. I think he was trying to help Vicky because he doesn't know necessarily what Joker's intentions are in that moment.
Yeah, but he can't help Vicky by doing what he does. The thing, it's a weird situation because what would really make the most sense for him to do is, like you said, hide in the closet. But the hero can't be hiding in the closet because he's the hero. So instead they need to make him do something. It's just that it doesn't make sense for him to do that thing.
I mean, I think you're splitting hairs, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't know that I am. I think that scene was sort of nonsensical on its face. Like, what?
Yeah, but we get the breaking the thing and you want to get nuts. Come on! Let's get nuts.
You could say the breaking the thing was kind of an interesting one of the many parallels they try to make between the Joker and Batman. As you say, in this very scene, the Joker comes in and says exactly the same line that Bruce Wayne had said earlier in the same scene, nice place, a lot of space. And then Bruce Wayne knocking over that vase and breaking it. the Joker has just done a similar thing right on the same mantle. He broke that thing. And we also saw the Joker knock art off of a mantle earlier in the movie in the museum. So yeah, I mean, maybe they're trying to draw a parallel, but it's super weird. Like, why does Bruce Wayne just knock Vicky Vale's face off and break it? Again, nothing is accomplished by this. He doesn't do her any good by that.
I mean, I understand your point. I do. But I think Basinger makes a strong counterpoint. He's just trying to make sense of what Mr. J does.
Okay, good point, Basinger. And by the way, Basinger, thank you so much for saying nice things earlier. I really appreciate them. You're right. Like, these guys made the point too. You great minds think alike. You, Vissy, and Stephen and John all said, yeah, okay, the Joker, anything the Joker does, you just can throw up your hands. But now I'm talking about what Bruce Wayne does, right?
Right.
Is not the Joker, and he does this thing that I think doesn't really make any sense. He doesn't do Vicky Vale any good, and it could easily have gotten himself killed really for nothing. But I'm done making quibbles.
Okay.
My last one, I'm out. No more quibbles.
No more quibbles. Great. John, what's your quibbles?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I made it clear that I don't have any. No.
You don't, do you?
No. I don't know. It's just like maybe it's not really a quibble because I just use say the Prince music by today's standards feels a little out of place, but again, it's a movie from the late 80s, so it's it's a product of its time. I do think that, if we want to go with the scene we were just talking about, that is the one moment where Michael Keaton goes a bit into Michael Keaton territory as opposed to Bruce Wayne, where he's like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. I
will say this. This movie reminded me that people who are not trained to dance and are in a movie are terrible dancers every single time. When Joker's rolling down the street and that Prince music is playing and all his minions are dancing, I'm like, woo, these are enforcers, not dancers.
Yeah, but it's not like they're supposed to be dancers. They're that's exactly what they are.
Right, exactly. But I thoroughly enjoyed watching the really, really bad white boy dances in this film. And that's not Jack Nicholson, because the Joker dances actually quite a bit in this film, but he is, he's unhinged and he's very flamboyant and ridiculous. But then there's just a lot of guys who are kind of doing the white man shuffle. We've all done it. I know you've done it, Bronty. I know you've done it, John. God knows I've done it. But
I think that's a great point, Stephen. I think John is absolutely right. That's not a quibble because they're supposed to not be dancers.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not quibbling. I'm saying I enjoyed it.
Would you guys expect me to have quibbles over this movie? It was like, I was born in 1984. This came out in 1989. It's a movie that is such a part of my childhood and what made me fall in love with Batman. So of course I'm gonna love it unconditionally and struggle to find stuff that I don't like about it.
Oh, I'm not even saying necessarily that there's a bunch of things I don't like about the movie, but I still do try to be objective and say I think this could have been better. Even the stuff I like sometimes the ridiculous silly gets the point across better than something that would be maybe more subtle. Because again, I'm going to just cycle back to something I said near the beginning. This is about putting archetypes against a backdrop so that those archetypes can play out the story against each other. So we can, as a society, can make a record of how we feel about our hero, villain, anti-hero, damsel in distress archetypes in that day and age. So
Pedar, that's the only Batman related film coming in the future that I would be interested in. So
is that a real thing?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Because if it was a real thing, I think you would have told me about it by about 15 times by now. I would know.
I will say though, on that score of Batman movies coming in the future, because I know this isn't, we're not launching into, we talked about similarities to some of the other Batman franchises, or not franchises, but films. We haven't really talked about the current slate of Batman films. It's just something that
I literally can't talk about those films.
Yeah, it's like, regardless of what you want to say about their quality, it's just something that loses interest, that I lose interest in, because I mean the Christopher Nolan movies were different because I think that they're so impeccably well made, and they're just really strong films, and Christopher Nolan is an amazing filmmaker. But it seems like the older I get, the more I cherish my memory of these movies, and by extension Batman the Animated Series, which was very much a part of this whole cycle of Batman storytelling. And so the fact that I have these two films were recently released in 4K remastered editions. I've got the Batman Animated Series on Blu-ray, and they look absolutely phenomenal. So I'm kind of like, as far as future Batman movies go, I'm like, I'm good. I got what I need. Go ahead, go do your thing.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I have never seen Ben Affleck as Batman on film, on screen. This is not really what we're talking about, but the rise of the MCU changed my taste for superhero films. I'm a very big MCU fan, as most of you will know. I really liked Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. I really like this film and the one that comes after it. But by the time we've rebooted Batman for the fifth time or fourth time or whatever it is, I'm not as interested. And it is not the fault of any of these filmmakers that I also grew up in the early 80s in a time where my two choices for Batman before this film were either, Adam West, which, let's face it, was not going to make you go like, Batman's a badass. It's not going to happen. But your other choice is Batman from the animated Justice League cartoons that I watched on Saturday mornings, and he was more about like teaching life lessons to Robin than anything, almost. So this was the film that made me. So I of course knew who Batman was because I had watched the Adam West Batman when I was little and laughed and thought it was great fun. I'd seen plenty of the Justice League cartoon, but you watch this movie and 14-year-old me is like, Batman is cool AF. He is hardcore. He kicks butt. He gets the girl. He stands up for fighting for what's right. All of that. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, and I do want to talk about it since we're getting close to the end. I want to spend a little bit of time on the aesthetic of these films.
Okay.
Because I think that lends a lot to what you're talking about. It's sort of the image of Batman goes a long way, and sort of like, this is cool. I mean, I could go on and on about sort of how great the design of the costume is, and then you have the Batmobile, which is just I'm not into the Batmobile as a giant tank as much as I love the Christopher Nolan movies, and I get why it makes sense for the aesthetic of those movies, but it's like, this is the Batmobile, and I just love the I said it before, it's an Art Deco sort of design, and that was taken to an extreme in the next film, and then also used not exact, but in this similar vein with the animated series. And so for me, it's the look of Batman.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it's like it's noir, but it's not. Okay, you have that and that in the same film. You know, look at the colors. Look how dark and cold that is. This is much warmer, and again, it's like it's combining two palettes in a way that a lot of films don't really do. But I'm with you. It makes this the aesthetic for this particular series very distinct. So it's like neo-noir, I think.
Yeah.
There you go, Vissy. Art Deco neon gothic.
And I do kind of love that, because I mean, you can, even watching this one, you can tell there's stuff that's, you know, it's shot on a backlot and all that, but that's just taken to an extreme with the next movie where you're like, okay, none of this, I don't really believe any of this stuff is in a real city, because that's just the look of it. It's such a sort of over the top extreme, and it's, you know, and I don't say that disparagingly. I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and I love it. And like I said before, the Christopher Nolan movies are in stark contrast to that, because everything looks real and real to life.
Yeah, part of the fun I had watching the movie earlier today was being like, oh man, look how much you know, there's very little CGI in this movie, and it's obvious why, because man, the CGI work doesn't hold up. Anything that's CGI, you're like, there it is, right there. But that also means that there's a lot of practical effects and models used in this film. And you know, like, okay, so I guess it's not that long after Star Wars, but you're seeing a lot of like the stuff that was pioneered for Star Wars, especially for the scenes that had like X-Wings and space battles in it, when you've got the Batwing flying above the city. Yeah, and I really appreciated that.
I love the fact that when it crashes into the
it's a model.
Whatever, that's model work, and
and if you're looking hard, you can tell. But like at the same time, where I'm like, this is a model, and I can tell, I'm like, this is a really good model.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's the last thing I can think of that I need to make sure that I point out. So, guys, we're like 5 minutes from the end. We can go over if we need to, but and I'm going to also point out
just before we go, the major props to Alfred in this movie. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Michael Goff, or I don't know. I'm probably not getting that right, but like, I know we get Michael Caine in the, you know, Christopher Nolan movies, but you know, this is Alfred. So
right.
You're so right. Iconic.
Yeah. And I posted a video in the Slack before we did this, which was the VHS opening to this movie, and it had the Coca-Cola commercial, which watching that just brought me back, because it's like certain things, because, you know, I remember watching it on videotape as a kid, and so I would see those same commercials again and again and again, and so watching that video on YouTube just automatically brought it back to my mind. It gave me lots of nostalgia.
Kate is weighing in, saying her friend with the same last name pronounces it Goff.
Okay.
So we'll go with that.
Yeah, I also know someone who with that name who pronounces it Goff, but I didn't know whether that actor did or not. I was the same as you, John. I was reluctant to say the name because I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Well, if you change it to a C, it's cough, so I think Goff works fine. And if not, somebody will, like, I'm sure I'll get a letter from his lawyer. Whatever. Anyway.
He looks...
And then I've got my lawyer right there on retainer.
He looks so perfect, doesn't he?
He really does.
I mean,
and he does manage to bring that sort of like, I am your servant, but I am also your daddy in some ways. Like
totally. He's running the whole show. Like,
yeah.
Keaton doesn't even like Vicky Vale, and Alfred's like, not too bad, you're marrying her. I'm kidding, but I mean, seriously, like, Michael Keaton shows no interest in her practically, doesn't call her. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but he doesn't call her. And he's like, no, I'm not doing this. And Alfred's like, you are. And I'm like,
well, okay, no, wait, if you want to have a serious discussion about this, he's reluctant to get involved with anybody. So that's...
And I think that's actually fully legit. I really do. If you're, the sort of threat that it can be leveled at any superhero's extended friend or family group is well documented at this point.
But I do really love, there's, we have the moments in this movie where Alfred makes the sort of the unilateral decision to let Vicky in on everything. And I love that comes back in the second film where they're talking about something else, and Bruce is like, and you're the one who let Vicky Vale into the Batcave. I'm just standing there, and all of a sudden, oh, hi, Vicky.
Yeah, right. Look, obviously, I was joking about, exaggerating. They didn't even like Vicky Vale or anything. Alfred does the whole thing, joking. But the serious point is that this is a massive life decision to tell Vicky Vale that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And that massive life decision is not left to Bruce Wayne. To the extent it is, he decided against doing it, and Alfred just overrules him. It's amazing. I mean, Alfred is very much co-running the show here.
Yeah, and the most that he suffers is some side eye, and that's all he's gonna get too. Like, yeah, okay, so he gets a glance from Bruce, but.
Even also earlier, right, at the big gala that Bruce Wayne is throwing, Alfred comes to him and he's like, Commissioner Gordon left early, and Bruce Wayne totally oblivious. This is Batman, totally oblivious. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. And Alfred's like, very unexpectedly.
Yeah, he left in a hurry, yo.
And then even then, Bruce Wayne starts to go the wrong way, and Alfred's like, perhaps you'd like to exit through this door, sir, because he's directing him to the Batcave. So Bruce Wayne is depicted as a little bit, foggy here, and Alfred is kind of the brains behind the operation.
Well, he's definitely got his mind, like, I think Bruce Wayne is the big picture guy in a lot of ways, and Alfred is like the details guy.
Yeah, and maybe Bruce Wayne was distracted by his first meeting with Vicky Vale.
Yeah. I mean, every man in this film is distracted anytime Vicky Vale walks by. Seriously. Next time you watch this, watch the people around, watch the men around Vicky Vale. Every single one of them checks her out. Even Alfred. But that's again back to like she is an archetype, a beautiful woman archetype in this story. A part of the way they're conveying that is to show us by having her be noticed by all the men.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was maybe at the party where she.
It was, in fact, at the party.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That even Alfred. I mean, you could say that he's thinking about her for Bruce Wayne right from the start.
Well, and I'm not trying to actually say there's anything wrong with that. That is actually human and real. We only have a limited demographic to choose from here, but you've got three men. Do you look at women that you find attractive? Yes, you do. Don't lie to me and tell me you don't. I mean, we're all three heterosexual men, so we look at women that we find attractive. It doesn't mean that we are necessarily degrading them in any other way. We're just enjoying that one aspect of who they are. And I think Alfred can appreciate a beautiful woman, and then later that night be telling embarrassing stories about Bruce to her in an almost familial type of way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
John, I don't know about you, but I have no idea what Steven is talking about.
Yeah, of course. I'm always, having the most honorable intentions and never thinking about anything.
Yeah, there's not an entire channel on our Slack group devoted to one actress that John is obsessed with.
No, I did that for other people.
Of course you did. That was, yeah, that was for out of the kindness of your heart so others could celebrate.
Yeah.
That was so big of you, John, and other regarding of you. It was really, really kind. Well,
yeah. Oh, that's what I try to be.
Oh man, you guys are great. You guys are great. All right, so what else? What else needs to be talked about from this movie? Chat. Any questions? Any comments you have about Batman? That specific, not just Batman in general, but of obviously this specific film, because we are past the 2-hour mark. I think I've gotten it all out of my system. I can't really think of anything else that I need to say. I'll give the chat a few minutes to catch up and see if they've got anything. But go ahead, Bronty, if you've got something.
Guys, I just want to let you know real quick. I'm putting a link in the chat. Like I said before, unfortunately, this is not currently available. It's temporarily out of stock and probably won't go back in until after quarantine stuff is, all over and done with. But if you wanted to go check out the soundtrack to both this and Batman Returns, it's just a click on here. There's some samples that you can click on and listen to on there. And, if it's something that piques your interest, maybe just bookmark the page for a future date, because it's definitely worth having if you love these movies.
OTDA has a really good question. Number one scene from the movie.
That's a fantastic
question. That's a great question. I'm going to chew on it for a minute. Either of you have an answer off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I want to think about it for a second.
I think my favorite might be, and actually we kind of almost have a shot of it, might be this scene right here, where Joker is standing out front and Batman is flying down towards him, and all hell has broken loose, and it's like the beginning of the third act. And he pulls that ridiculously long gun out of his pants, and it's just the music is great. It's completely over the top. The Joker is being batshit crazy. Again, I made that same accidental pun again, but he's being just his crazy over at the top insane self. Batman is out there using all of his wonderful toys that he has to I love that particular scene of him flying back and forth to grabbing the balloons and all of it. I love it. That's my favorite scene.
I think that's a fantastic choice. It maybe in some ways could be the most iconic scene, the plane Joker shooting at that gun. As you say, pulling that very long gun out of his pants was weird. It's like, I feel like Tim Burton's fingerprints were all over that. So
where's your issues with the realism of that?
Hey, I'm not talking about realism. Me or Bronty? Who you?
Bronty.
Oh.
Mr. Let me pick everything apart.
I wasn't going to say anything about that. But favorite scene? I like that scene. I also like the scene where Batman rescues Vicky Vale from the museum. I think it's very exciting after that. And they run and then they sort of fly upward. But I'm going to pick for my favorite scene. It's a very me pick. I'm going to pick the date, the dinner date, the whole thing with Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale. I like romantic comedy. It was very sweet. It was very nice. the whole thing where they're at the other opposite ends of the table, and it's cute, and then they're with Alfred in the sort of kitchen area, and it's cute, and then it's sweet between them. So, I'm a romantic, so that's my choice. There's probably no one else who saw this movie who would pick that as their favorite scene.
There's bound to be someone. John, do you have any answer?
Yeah, it's the the dinner rescue scene through everything with the Batmobile. I remember when I was a kid, I thought it was so cool that he just went shields and the Batmobile, protected itself and all that. And then, everything with the grappling hook and the fights, and
I think you weigh a little more than 108 pounds.
Yeah, and then it's all capped off with, and these are all multiple scenes. So if I had to narrow it down actually to my favorite scene, it's probably the one that ends it all, which is the drive back to the Batcave when Danny Elfman's music just is let loose, and just, she's trying to take a look at his face, and and he flashes the light in her eyes so she can't look, and then they go through the entrance that looks like they're about to slam into the wall. Just that entire scene is so brilliant, and it's just all the camera work and the music and everything. It's definitely probably might be my favorite score cue in the entire film, and just it's so gothic and dark, and so yeah, that's it.
Solid choice.
I think that's a fantastic choice. Yeah, that's
and I'm not surprised that you pick the scene that you feel like has the best score moment as your favorite. I mean, that's a very John choice to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see anything else in the chat. I don't have anything else.
We never talked about Robert Wool as Alexander Knox. I think that he's the reporter.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have as much to do in this film.
I just always think of, you guys seen the American Dad episode where he's in it, like he's trying to get I think it's Roger and somebody else to come see the Robert Wool show, and it's like but it's just him and the two characters that he's trying to rope into, come spend time with him at his house. And the whole episode is like, one of them's like, who the hell is Robert Wool?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. You could say, like, you could have, if you wanted to trim the movie, you could have taken out the character. It doesn't really have to be there. I think there are two interesting things about it. One is that it's another parallel to the Superman movies that this is sort of an answer to, because there's a very much of a Lane and Kent vibe, Lois Lane and Clark Kent vibe to Robert Wool's character and Vicky Vale right there. These investigative reporters who are looking into Batman just as Clark and Lois look into Superman, and it's sort of like what it would be like if Clark Kent were not Superman. That's sort of the Robert Wool character. And the other interesting thing is that Robert Wool's character is sort of the only person in the movie who's kind of like a regular person who you could imagine being an actual person in the world. None of the others. I don't think that a typical moviegoer could relate to any character in the movie, with the possible exception of the Alexander Knox character. So that's interesting. Kind of.
I have to admit, though, I do really love the part where they first meet, Bruce Wayne, and and he jokingly says, "Hey, want to give me a grant?" And then the scene ends with, "Oh, and Alfred, give Knox a grant."
Mm-hmm. I also love he must have been king of the Wicker people. His delivery on that line is just, I mean, the guy does a great job with what he's given, but I feel like, again, he is maybe less so than the other characters, but he is a certain archetype. He is that everyman archetype.
Yeah.
Although I do appreciate that in the end, he jumps out, grabs a little freaking mask. It's not going to stop any poison gas, but he's got a mask and he's got a stick and he's trying to run people off. He's out there doing his thing, and I respect him for it.
Yeah, it's true. He's everyman, but a very special everyman. He's the only person who recognizes at the beginning that Batman is a real thing. He's chasing him down when nobody else is doing that. Everyone thinks that he's crazy for it. And then, yeah, like you say, very brave. He's very, he's everyman. He's like the best reporter in Gotham. So even Knox, who is depicted as sort of normal, unlike all these other super people, is pretty super himself.
Yeah, I agree. I think Mom raised a good point too. Superheroes can't have successful romance since their significant other becomes a target. I think I said something not too dissimilar from that earlier, but I think that's part of what Bruce Wayne is trying to navigate in this film. Is that he wants to be close, but he feels like he can't. But then, like, isolation isn't good for you emotionally, mentally, and like being close to a person can give you a reason to fight. So, like, you need to have those close relationships, even though they're dangerous for the other person. I digress. That might be a whole other conversation.
And the movie definitely comes down on that side of things. Even though the last child is man alone, Alfred is taking Vicky Vale to meet up with Batman. They're going to get together. I mean, the implication is they're going to be together, and that Alfred's, just like Stephen said, Alfred's view was right. It's endorsed by the movie, at least, the idea that Bruce Wayne needs her in his life, otherwise he's not going to be human.
Okay, Erin M has a question, and she's just, can I ask how you guys feel about the Joaquin Joker? I can't. I haven't seen that film. I really want to, but again, like, you should see my list of stuff that I need to watch. Like, the film is on there. I just hadn't gotten to it yet.
I haven't seen it either, but I'm sure John has.
Yeah, it was my second favorite movie of last year.
We had
there's a lot. I mean, I know there's a lot of controversy with the film, but my primary interest in the film was the fact that it's, great performances, incredibly well made. And I like the fact that it's a comic book film that stands off on its own and that it's not tied in with a cinematic universe. And so it's allowed to be its own thing. And yeah, I think Joaquin Phoenix is just absolutely stunning in it. There's no question in my mind that, he got the Oscar last year, and it was very well deserved. I do find it kind of funny that it feels like the Joker is like an Oscar bait role now, which is weird.
Yeah, apparently 3 amazing performances by 3 amazing actors: Nicholson, Keith Ledger, and Joaquin Phoenix. I haven't seen it. I should see it, especially since, John, if it was your second favorite movie, I'd probably love it, because I think our favorite movie was Little Women, right? Was that? Yeah. My favorite too from last year.
Right on. Yeah, I want to see it. I will get to it eventually, but it's not going to be today.
Did you see Little Women, Stephen?
No, I did not.
It was great.
I mean, John hyped the crap out of it. I'm not against it, but again, when you start watching stuff so that you could talk about it on a weekly basis, man, your watch card fills up fast. Like I say, I've got to get through an entire season of Star Wars, the Clone Wars animated series in 3 weeks. 3 weeks or 4 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
By the way, if anybody hasn't done that, you absolutely should.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you why, and I'm not going, nobody's forcing you to do anything, but if you wanted to watch the Clone Wars for any, no particular reason, yeah, now might be a good time, and try to finish it up within maybe 3 or 4 weeks. That's all I'll say. But yeah, guys, I think we're at the end here. Kraken Taco said everyone here should see Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, and I need one of our mods to ban him for life from the channel. Okay, don't actually ban him for life, you know what I mean? But you are here. That is the trolliest comment you've ever made, Kraken Tacos. Never change. But in all seriousness, in all seriousness, y'all, I think we are at the end. We're going to start wrapping this up. So I will say thank you so much, Bronty, for joining us. I was so happy to have. I mean, John has great perspective. I think I have good perspective, and honestly, we don't always agree on everything, and that creates great conversation. And you brought yet another perspective to this that I think you did nothing but just add more and more and more layers to the conversation, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Stephen and John. It was so great to get to do this with the two of you. I was really looking forward to it. I loved it. Just thank you so much.
And then you can expect being drafted in the future for more the film discussions. Yeah.
That's great. So nice of you to say. I'd be thrilled.
Yep. Okay, so that having been said, join us next week for excuse me, for our fan appreciation stream. If you want to be a part of that, I need you to get with me, get with John, or get with Nessie. We will get you up to speed on our Slack group, because that's going to be where we're organizing it through. That way we can just post a message and everybody there will have it right there in front of them. And we don't have to send 15 or 20 different DMs. But yeah, we're going to be organizing that this week. I'll need you to get with me if you're not already part of that group. So yeah, do that. John, you've got, don't tell me, Blade Runner 2049 on Thursday. Come join the Slack group and join us for a watch party.
I hope I did say Thursday before. I just had the sudden fear that I accidentally said Tuesday.
Well,
if I did, it's definitely Thursday.
It's definitely Thursday. I don't remember if you did or not, if I'm being honest, but it is on Thursday. So that's next. John, Blade Runner 2049, next Sunday, fan appreciation. After that, who knows? Bronty, writing stuff, I'm assuming. Writing another essay eventually.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe we'll see.
Articles. Going to write some law review articles, I can tell you that.
Right.
For my day job.
Right. Law review stuff for your day job. Well, I probably won't read that.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely, neither will anybody else.
Okay. Well, and to everybody in the chat, guys, week after week, you keep coming. I can't for the life of me figure out why, but I thank you for being here anyway. Much love to all of you. And I'll tell you what, we're going to cut out now, but we will see you all in the very near. Oh,
wait. I want to close out a little differently.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to count us down, and then you know what we all need to say, right? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, but hold on. Before
okay, finish what you were saying.
I'm just going to say thanks. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah. Count it down, John.
All right. 3, 2, 1. I'm Batman.
All right, everyone. We'll see you later. Peace.